In the story Star Witness, Christ, the angel son of the Most High, who goes by the name of Solomon, the favored son of King David, who also goes by the name of Joseph, the favored son of Israel, made it known that his father, highly Jah Jehovah Selassie I, does not like the fact that man changed the boundaries of time. Hence, every 4 years, the pagans add 2 extra days to his original calendar, which was meant to be in weeks. Hence, it's supposed to be 52 weeks of the year. Yet still, if you go to Ethiopia, they have 13 months. And the 13th month is literally a Greek term that was made up by the Greeks. Hence, it was the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church that brought their Egyptian Greco-Roman calendar to Ethiopia. Hence, in Ethiopia today, they have 2 Sabbaths thanks to this flipping church, this pagan church. So let's read. Thus said the Lord, David shall never fail to have a man to sit on the throne of Israel. Read it slow. David, King David, shall never fail to have a man sit on the throne of Israel. And if you don't know, Jacob is the root onto David, and Haile Selassie is literally the root of David, King David himself. So let's read. Let's go to the beginning. This is the book of the generations of Adam, the day that God created man. In other words, God made man. Hence, God is not man, but man would look like God. So that's why it says, in the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. In other words, Adam means couples. And where did this happen? With Ethiopia, this one was born there. Remember, the term Cush was made up by the Greeks. So Ethiopia, this one was born there, and respecting Zion, which is Ethiopia, it will be said each and every one was born in her, and the Most High himself will firmly establish her, Jehovah himself. So the Most High is Jehovah himself, who goes by the name of David, who also goes by the name of Jacob. But God does not withdraw his mercy, nor permit even one of his promises to fail. He does not uproot the posterity of his chosen one, nor destroy the offspring of his friend. So he gave to Jacob a remnant, to David a root from his own family. In other words, King David, the firstborn, is Jacob, the firstborn. And we can see that right here. Jacob, God acknowledged him as the firstborn and gave him his inheritance. He fixed the boundaries from his tribes into 12. And from Jacob was to spring the man who won the favor of all, dear to God and men, Moses. In other words, Moses is Solomon. Moses is Joseph. That's why you have the 12 tribes of Jacob, or the 12 tribes of Israel, and Moses is one of them. Why? Because Moses is literally Joseph, who is the son of the firstborn. So if you read Psalm 89, you will clearly see, and I myself shall place him as firstborn, the most high of the kings of the earth. In other words, King David, also known as the root onto David, has the highest title of anyone. So that's why it says, once I have sworn in my holiness to David, I will not tell lies. And where's David from? Zion. So Zion was called from the beginning. In other words, in the beginning, we were all Ethiopians from a place called Zion. So let's watch what they're doing.
Ethiopia, the place called Lalibela. And you see the rock-hewn temples, the rock-hewn churches in the side of the mountain, down in the ground. Engineering, thousands of years before any country existed in all of Europe.
Yet still, the Tewahedo Church, which is from a Greco-Roman place, is basically changing the story. Why would you go there to change up the beginning?
Fair enough. Well, let me ask you this question. What was the religion of Abraham? From your perspective, give it a label. We don't need a label. So what was the religion of Abraham? He was not a Christian from the sense of following Christ. Abraham was not a Jew because Judaism came from the tribe of Judea well after Abraham. He was not a Muslim.
In other words, Judaism comes from the tribe of Judah. Judah is not God. So I don't know why people call themselves Jew. You're an Israelite. A Levite is not a Jew. A Josephite is not a Jew. A Benjamite is not a Jew. God is not a Jew. God is Israel himself. So why would he call himself a Jew? Why would he call himself one of his sons? And why would you refer to yourself as one of his sons? When in fact you should refer to yourself as an Israelite. So what are they doing now? They're trying to connect their Jewish stuff to Ethiopia. Even though it clearly says, are you not as children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel? Another Bible will say, are you not the children of Ethiopia unto me, O children of Israel? Whom I have brought you out of the land of Egypt and the Syrians from Ker. In other words, the Syrians are telling you that they taught Ethiopia the scriptures. And they got an Egyptian Abuna teaching in the Tewahedo church. Why? Because the Tewahedo church brought their calendar, which changed the beginning. So what in the beginning? In the beginning, Ethiopia went from Sagno or Segno to Ehud. In other words, Monday to Sunday. But thanks to that flipping pagan Tewahedo church, they're following Rome. So now they're going Sunday to Saturday. Hence, they want you to follow the Roman Sabbath day or the Roman seventh day, which was made up by Julius Caesar and the Gregorian calendar. So what does it say? The Ethiopian calendar has its origins from the ancient Coptic calendar. Hello, Ethiopia predates Egypt by over 1,500 years. So they're trying to tell you that in the beginning it was Egypt. Hence, the Tewahedo church is the one who brought that Julian calendar to Ethiopia. So that's why it's confusion right now. And they have literally the Tewahedo church celebrates 2 Sabbath days. Why? Because that church brought their calendar. And if you don't know, the 13th month in Ethiopia, known as Pagume, is a Greek term. Hence, is a Greco-Roman church that came and changed the times that's in Ethiopia. So what does it say? The name Pagume comes from the Greek word. In other words, the Greeks, the pagans, are adding in days to the Ethiopian calendar, to the original calendar. So let's watch what God has to say. And all the days of the commandment will be 2 and 52 weeks of day. And these will make the entire year complete. In other words, 364 days. But if they do neglect and do not observe them according to his commandment, then they will disturb all their seasons, and the years will be dislodged from disorder, and they will disturb the seasons and the years. In other words, and all the children of Israel will forget and will not find the path of the years, and will forget the new moons, seasons, and Sabbath, and they will go wrong as to all the order of the years. In other words, that pagan Tewahedo church is changing up timing. And what are they changing up timing to? The original. And what's the original?
Also called Son, and I saw a people of the black complexion, Ethiopian from Zan, also one or Zion, supreme dream to be I, Tar from Zan, Tarzan, black man, Oedipus fixation.